All right, so I was born on Long Island, and when I was 10, I learned a song called The Captain's Mate. And I used to love singing this around the house. Sailing on a ship on a deep blue sea, oh, the captain's mate am I. And this song made me think of my father. And also reflected how I hoped he thought of me, his oldest son. But that song never summoned my father, just my little brother, Chris. Now, he's 5 years younger than me, and he always just wanted to know one thing. Can you play with me? No, go away. And I hated playing with him. He was slow. He couldn't throw the football. He couldn't even catch the football. And his knock-knock jokes, totally juvenile. And he was crying all the time. He cried when I'd push him to the floor or ground. He'd cry when I'd take toys away from him. And he'd cry when I called him stupid. He cried so much that my mom gave him a nickname, Kwuss, which was Chris and Wuss smashed together. And I could not have disagreed with her at all. I mean, it was totally correct. And besides, like, the real action for me was with the older boys down the street. They played stickball every day, and I'd go down there with my mitt and bat, and I'd be like, hey, guys. And usually they'd ignore me. But every once in a while, they'd stop everything, look my way, and start shouting as one, Mets, Mets, Mets. And since that really hurt me because I was a Yankees fan, and in the 80s, the Yankees sucked hard. And so, you know, I wanted to ask them if I could play with them, but I knew what they were going to say. Beat it, kid. So I just went down the street in front of my home, and I would toss the ball up in the air to myself over and over. And after every catch, I'd look their way like, I got skills. But the only person who wanted to play with me was my brother. And I'd be like, will you get out of here? They can totally see you. But I was getting nowhere with the stickball crew. And that's when I met Tommy, our newspaper boy. Tommy was in high school, and he carried a little green book around with him in a wad of $1 bills. It's for accounts. And I was like, yeah, accounts. Tommy was an important boy, just like I wanted to be. So I would find myself after school during the week trying to find Tommy. And I'd be like, oh, Tommy, Tommy, what are you doing? Delivering newspapers. And I'd ride my bike alongside of him. And I'd be like, Tommy, do you like the Yankees? I like the Yankees. My dad likes the Yankees. Yes, Tommy's dad liked the Yankees. And pretty soon I ditched my bike and I was walking the route with him. And I just loved sticking my face into his satchel and smelling the inky scent of newsprint. And if he threw a newspaper and it kind of went off to the side, I'd go get it and put it back on someone's step nice and neatly. And this went on for a couple of weeks. It was great. I was a big boy. But one day, Tommy saw me coming up to him and he said, no more. And I said, oh, come on, Tommy, just for a little bit. And he's like, no, I don't think we should hang out anymore. Tommy dumped me. And so I didn't see him for a while. And I might have forgotten about him altogether. But there was this big snowstorm one day, and it left a 4-foot drift in front of my home. And I spent an entire Saturday digging this sucker out. And, you know, when I was done, I had a 1-room igloo. Capacity, me. And if my brother Chris got too close, I'd throw snowballs at him, to ward him off. It worked great. And I'd hang out in there, listen to my radio, or read a book, watch my breath fog the air, whatever. Chris would come by, and he'd be like, can I come in? No, there's no room. Well, can I go in later? No, you'd break it, duh. And so, it was so cold, this igloo lasted for over a week. It was awesome, and I amassed quite a cache of snowballs in there. And in fact, it was so cold, they had almost frozen solid. And so it was, I climbed out of my igloo the next Saturday, and there was Tommy. And he comes up and he goes, well, what do we have here? And I said, nothing. Go away. And he's like, I'll be gone soon enough. And time seemed to slow down. And he kind of sauntered past my brother up to the front step, and he dropped that paper off. And he's kind of walked slowly back too. And I was angry with Tommy. And so when he came back past me, I said, I don't like you very much, Tommy. And he said, I don't like you very much either. And his lips kind of curled up in the sides of his mouth. And I did the only thing that I could think of. And he started laughing. He's like, all right, see you later, kid. And he turned around to go to the next house. Kid? And so I shouted, Tommy! And as he turned around, I hurled one of my ice balls right at his face. Now, ordinarily, you know, my hit rate was like 20%. But this was like a right on target. And I saw his eyes widen as it made impact. And next thing you know, he was, you know, kind of wiping away snow and ice from his neck. What remained was this little red welt. And he's like, you little shit. And he charged after me, and I dove into my igloo. And he's like, you get out of there. You get out of there right now. And I didn't move. And there was this weird silence. And then I heard Tommy laugh. And then in a moment, the ceiling of my igloo came crashing down on top of me. No! But it was too late. You know, I was lying in the rubble, and Tommy goes, see you later, punk, and went away. And then my little brother comes around, and he has this slack-jawed look, like he can't believe I'm still alive. And he goes, maybe we can rebuild it. And he starts grabbing these crusty blocks and trying to restack them, but of course they keep falling over. I mean, like, it's like he never knew that you can't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. And so I got up and I said, don't worry about it, it's finished. And his wheels were turning inside, and he said, well, maybe we can build a snowman. And it just blew my mind. I mean, no matter how much I told this kid no, he always thought that the next time I'd want to play with him. And I didn't want to build a snowman, but on that day, I did. A year later, I was a paper boy. I delivered the weekly penny saver. And so on Wednesday nights, I'd sit in the basement, and I'd stack all these advertisements into a bag. And I'd be singing. And of course, my brother would come downstairs. Can I help? Sure. And so we'd stack these, we'd stuff these bags together, and he'd start singing. Sailing on a ship on the deep blue sea, and then I would join in. For the captain's mate am I, and there's nowhere that I'd rather be than by my captain's side. And this song wasn't just about fathers and sons. It was for big brothers and little brothers too. For anyone who loved someone else. And ever since, he and I have been singing on and on and on. Thank you.